All right, we're gonna try this with my phone. See how this works. It's a little bit of a different setup. Not sure I love it. Actually, I am sure. I don't love it. I like the other one better. We'll see what happens. So right now it's, oh, am I crooked? I think I am crooked. Wait a minute. Is that right? All right. Hi there. So it's 5 o'clock. So I was gonna start this much earlier because I already know Calico's gonna come home. I don't know what time she's coming home. I already know that it's gonna be. We may be interrupted. Also, there's. You can't see. If I had, I would like to be able to show you. There's a loose guinea pig. She keeps getting out. I keep her in a pen on the floor. You can probably hear her chewing. And I find this hilarious because she can't get herself out, but I thought she was getting out by herself. And it turns out she's not been getting out by herself. Luke, my black lab, he goes and he lets her out, and he actually dismantles. There's a portion of the pen that he breaks open, and then he goes in and he eats her apple, but he doesn't chase her. But I find this fascinating, and the reason I'm bringing it up is because it actually does relate to something that I had wanted to talk about. Approximately, let's see, 2013, I guess it was 2013, I was married at the time. I was living in Riften, New York, and we had a house full of animals. None of them were my husband's. They were all mine. And we had, I think, 35 chickens at one point. We had a house turkey. And we had a great big pen outdoors, and in the pen outdoors were loose. We had tons of guinea pigs, multiple rabbits. At any rate, we also had 4 dogs at the time, and one of the things I prided myself on, I really did, and we had other animals too. We had 5 cats. But one of the things I really prided myself on at the time was interspecies harmony. We just had, because all the animals were by and large loose. I mean, a lot of them had, like Cleo, my snake, she had her tank, but I loved the way that multiple species would sleep together and nobody ever fought, and sometimes we kept the guinea pigs and the rabbits in the chicken coop, and with the loose turkey and and my 35 chickens, and I really liked the fact that they all got along. It was kind of a point of pride with me, and the cats would go and sleep with the rabbits, and I just really liked that. We had rats, and when that leads me to something I was going to talk about, because the energy from the Joan of Arc lifetime was such, especially in Riften, because that's like the hub. The energy pocket, there was a pocket, basically there was a pocket of very toxic, very dense energy that had kind of was underlying Riften. You know how I know I've said this before, but you know how on our physical bodies, there's usually a correlation between our physical bodies and the Earth, and you know how on our physical bodies you can go to an acupuncturist or someone who can put a needle in some spot that's totally far away from a given organ or something that needs treatment. And these energies run along meridians in our bodies. And in the earth, of course, we have ley lines. And the same much the same thing happens with these energies in the earth. And the energy of the 100 Years' War, the Loire Valley in France, well, all of France, there's a ley line where that toxic energy, you know, you think of just like Battle of Agincourt and all of the, just the stress and the toxic European fucked up warfare energy, there's a pool of it. There has been a pool of it. And that's one of the reasons that the moment that I moved to Riften, and that became my residence, I got deathly ill. I could no longer function. It really affected me. And I had no idea at the time why that was. But basically there was very toxic energy of war. And it's saturated. I mean, you know, like, no, the energy of war is always terrible. But then there are like levels, you know, like you can have like conflict energy from like a couple that's getting divorced, and that's one kind of conflict. But then, you know, you take the energy of something like Jerusalem, and it's going to be a whole different concentrated conflict energy. But when, in 2013, our house was relatively peaceful, and all these species were living in harmony, and we had 2 daughters, and a really nice sprawling yellow farmhouse, and all of the animals were living together in harmony. And really, within a very short amount of time, I met Josh and Carmen. It's kind of like you have certain things that are kind of catalytic events. I met Josh and Carmen, and when I met them, there was an awakening. Basically, I was already awake, basically, but being awakened in 3 is different. Being awakened in 5 and then going higher, my Kundalini started to rise, and with every level of awareness, it's like I was aware of more and more of this energy. But I also think that more of the energy, I think I was radiating it, but I also think that it was coming out of the ground. At any rate, almost, I would say within about a week's time frame, we went from being a peaceful household where all the animals got along and slept together, and there was just harmony all the time, to all of a sudden there was like warfare among the animals. Like, it was horrible. And it happened so quick, and we're like, what the hell happened? These 2 dogs, and that's why, like, the reason I'm mentioning it is because it has to do with underlying energy, and specifically energy overlays, where you can take one person's personality, and if they're clearing something that's particularly dense, and where you kind of have to sit with it, like in my case, I've been with Joan of Arc energy, not even from this lifetime, but as I cleared that, it has affected everything in my entire life. And it did that not only for me, but it did it for, it was almost like we all resumed our old roles a little bit. Only I didn't, for a while, I didn't know that that's what was going on. I realized that, like, everybody has changed, and I can't figure out why. But all of a sudden, like, personalities were different, and it was almost like group walk-ins. I'm going to talk about walk-ins in a minute. Let me just finish the point about the guinea pigs. Within about, or I would say over a course of a 3-week period, which is fairly short, considering we've been living pleasantly for years. And within about 2 or 3 weeks, these dogs, I think they killed 5 guinea pigs, broke into the pen and just killed them all, killed our house rabbit, killed, I think, 4 of our cats. Oh, is that true? No, actually, not that many. Maybe 2. But they killed the other ones later. And it was so shocking because they had never done anything like this before. And my husband, who had been the Dauphin, my memories came back. And when my memories came back, I remembered all of a sudden who everybody was. Like, this wasn't even a story that I knew. I'd been kept very, very far away from it, deliberately by guides. But once my memories came back and I shot out of my body, I saw everybody's identity. Like, kind of like on top of, like, I already knew my parents-in-law, and they lived across the field. I recognized them as having been there, and I knew who they were at that lifetime. And I suddenly saw that my husband was the Dauphin. I suddenly knew who Josh and Carmen were in the previous life. My friends, like, I just recognized them. It's basically my memories came back. We look mostly the same. But as we clear the old energy, it's kind of like the personalities in that lifetime were so strong that it was almost like the overlay totally dominated for a while. And I've been clearing it and clearing, at least whatever is mine to clear, I've been clearing very intensely, especially like the first 3 years. That's really all I did was clear. But I find it fascinating because I have a guinea pig on the floor, and my dog Luke is the same dog who killed 5 guinea pigs several years ago, and it was basically the energy of hostility. When that came up, it was just like this transparent, like a dye. It just went all over everything, and it was stronger than whatever it just dominated. And I've been thinking about that all day because he keeps letting this guinea pig loose. And he sometimes takes her apple and he goes and eats her carrot. But she's like literally walking around on the floor right now, and the dogs are loose. And I thought for a while he wasn't going after her because I was in the room. Because sometimes, he's definitely on much better behavior when I'm around. But no, because the other day, this is now like, it seems to be like the normal behavior where he just lets her out and she goes walking all around the house. Like, she'll be walking in the bathroom and just walking loose in the kitchen, loose guinea pig. And doesn't really want to be caught to be put back in her cage, but he'll be lying on the floor like it's just totally no big deal. And the lizards, my lizard is often loose on the floor. She goes wherever she wants. So right now she's on the windowsill or the dresser, but she sometimes sleeps with my chocolate lab. At any rate, the pig's racing around, and he just doesn't chase her anymore. And that's because the energy has subsided so much that he's basically back to his normal character. This is a different pig, obviously, than the ones we had, because the ones we had were killed. At any rate, I had wanted to talk about that. So let's see what's on my list. That actually wasn't one of the things I was going to talk about, except she happens to be loose. And chewing on stuff, hey. All right. All right, hang on one second. So I was going to talk about so often I organize these talks and then I turn on the camera and it just, whatever. We'll just see whatever comes in. And now it's kind of, I've got so much to say and it's just kind of stalled. One second. I'm just trying to figure out what to start with. Yeah. All right, I guess I'll talk about this. Just a second. Oh, okay, no, actually I'm going to start with this. So, oh, sorry. Sorry, one second. I'm trying to decide. Anything that remains too rigid must die. That's all I'm going to say about that. Walk of trust, dog. Yeah. All right. So, I had a, I really do have tons to say. I had a session, and this isn't one of the things I was going to talk about either, but I'm going to talk about it just because it seems to have cropped up. I had a session a while back with Barb Brewer, and she knows that I was going to mention it. I asked her permission. I was going to talk about spirit communication. Barb Brewer. I love our. We've had a couple of sessions now. I think 3. And I really love my sessions with her. I find her really funny. Not funny, but I find her. Oh my God! Is that you? You're here. Hi. The thing that I find, I hope you don't mind. I already asked you though if I could mention it. One of the things I think is so funny, it always strikes me. Like there are a couple of people that I've had more than one session with, but I always think it's funny with Barb Brewer because she seems to be largely clueless that she's got any ability. It's like she's really, she just doesn't know, and it's really apparent that like, so I'm doing a bad job explaining this. The thing that always comes through in her sessions that I wanted to talk about, because it's really very strong with her, and I'm so amused every time it happens all the time. She's got a very strong connection to elementals, and particularly fairies and elves. She's very connected to nature. It's like there's a strata. Sometimes when you talk to someone, you can feel like where, if they have a predominant range. And she's got a predominant range. She's got, and it's like, it's not a hierarchy ever. Mm-hmm. You got to be real clear about that. Like if I say somebody's is, oh, Calico's coming home. Okay. It's not like if you say somebody's working from a low strata, that doesn't mean it's less than. That just happens to be where she pulls a lot of her energy from. And there's I want to call it a glee club. There's something like a group, there's a group of, like fairies and elves, particularly elves that are very earth-based. And some fairies come from higher, but like angelics come from whatever. There's a particular, very land-based, grounded strata of like elementals and just elves. I just want to. They're elves, but they are. I have never seen them more excited than when they work with her. It's like she would be the king of them or something. They get really excited, and that's why I just think it's hilarious, because we have a session and it's like she doesn't, she's unaware of it, but there is it's like it's almost hysteria. Not quite hysteria, but they get so excited, and they're just like they really want to help her. And I know I feel like I only ever give her the same advice, but like, boy, you should really ask for help, because they want to help you so much. Like they just can. They're like puppies. Like they almost can't even contain themselves. They're so excited. And the reason I'm bringing it up is because it struck me the last time there was. I got scolded a little bit today. Not really scolded. Not exactly scolded, but I got told to get like chop, get on task. You got to talk about spiritual communication. And I've got tons of stuff to say, but it's very disorganized, and I'm having a hard time grounding it into a program, which normally I could do if I were 100% grounded, but I'm not. I'm having a really tough time being in my body. And also, I'm having a tough time being in my body. My guides have told me they've told me like for the last 6 months that I could expect to gain weight, and I was just going to have to deal with it, because for whatever I'm doing, they said you're going to be gaining weight. And recently I have been gaining weight, and I'm really uncomfortable and cross and just uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable in my body. I don't like to be here. And but I got told this morning for about 2 hours. I was getting this message. Chop, spirit communication. So for a while I was like, well, what do you want me to talk about? I have been doing the live streams, and they want me to do more of them. They want it to be more structured, but they understand that I see this too. I've been I'm as structured as I can be until I land. I'm not grounded. It's kind of like, I feel very much like a balloon. Like I can kind of stay in one spot a little bit, and I'm tethered, but I'm not really anchored. And when I finally land, I'm gonna be able to structure the way I previously could. So I'm not totally worried about that, but I basically said today, well, I've been doing this. What else do you want me to talk about? And they said specifically spirit communication. And I know that the energy from the Barb's last session, I remember it, and I remember a couple of things happened in her session. And I thought, oh, I definitely want to put that in a live stream, because that was really interesting. There was, so this morning they're like, yeah, it's, you delayed and you skipped over that part, and you talked about other stuff, but you missed that, and we gave it to you at this time, so you have to get on the ball. So here it is. During Barb Brewer's last session, there was some fascinating communication that came through, and there was there was one elf, and it was male. There was a male elf, and I found this so funny because he was trying to talk to her, and so I was kind of getting some of it, and there was a whole bunch of enthusiastic, like almost like participants who were like waiting to go. You're like kind of they're gathered around her, and they really, really, really like her. It's like they're good with everybody. They're positive, and they're elves and fairies. You can call on them. Anybody can call on them. But Barb just seems to have she I don't know what she has, but they really, really like her. At any rate, there was a male elf, and I thought it worth mentioning because there are different kinds of spirit communication. Just the way there are like different kinds of energetic blocks, and which I've also said I was going to talk about. But I just want to mention this one male elf who was communicating, and he was communicating on the right side. There was information coming in on the right, and that's one of the reasons he kind of had a male feel to him anyway, but I was identifying it as a male elf because it came in on the right. If it comes in on the, generally speaking, your right side will represent the masculine and the present and the future. The left side is the feminine side and the past. At any rate, he was sending me, I kept getting a line. It's so interesting. The way they communicate is with images, and he was sending me, this is why I thought I would mention it. It was like they were almost looked like they would be emojis, similar to emojis. They were very little images of flowers, and each one has a different, carries a different signature, a different meaning. And it was a one line, and what I found interesting, it wasn't set out like letters where there's a space in between. There was distinctly no space. There was, it was all connected, picture of these little flowers, but they were all different flowers. So I didn't stop to really analyze it, but it seemed to me, the message that I got from it seemed to be more talk about the way we communicate so that other people can start to look for it. And it's interesting, just as, you know how I'm always talking about the transmission, the transmission that goes out on these live streams. Look, if you look in the background right now, there are all of these little crystals all lined up, and it's very much, and actually I have no idea, I haven't paid any particular attention to what sequence they're in, but it was very much like that during her session. I saw the image of a hillside, and the hillside was kind of in the background. It was almost like it, but okay, they're saying say this part. And the reason I'm telling you is because these are things that you can look for. And if you open your mind, and you can ask and say, I would like to communicate with fairies. I'd like to communicate with elves. What might it look like? It doesn't mean that it has to always look like this necessarily, but this is the way that it came through to me this one time. And okay, they're saying say more about this. There's okay, the way I perceived it, I am very clairvoyant. Like I see images all the time. Extremely clairaudient. sometimes the clairaudience has really been the bane of my existence, because I can't turn any of it off. But I actually walk around anytime I go out in public. I have headphones that are made for the target range. They're purple, and I wear them every single time I go shopping, and I've been doing it. My daughter will tell you, even when they were babies, I've always had them. Because it's funny. I wear those despite the fact that I'm completely deaf in this ear. Almost completely deaf. I think like 95% deaf. And in this, I probably have roughly 50% hearing in this ear. So I almost never talk on the phone because it's very difficult. But even though I'm deaf, very largely deaf to the things that are going on in tangible reality, I'm extremely clairaudient. So I very often don't hear what's going on around me, but I hear everything else in the cosmos. So it's weird. But they're saying, mention this, back to this conversation with the elf. So because the information, this line of, and surprisingly small, that did surprise me. I have an idea that the size of the flower images, I think that has an effect on the meaning. The way like capital letters or lowercase letters. Anyway, I have an idea that because it seemed all right. I'm sorry, they're saying go with this. There was it came, I saw a hill basically in the background, and it seemed to be a male elf, and he wanted to talk to Barb. But there was a line of, it looked like text, and it was about this long, and it came in on this side, and it stayed there. And what else about it? Okay, that stayed there. And they were almost like little emoji pictures, but it was like natural flowers. And I know that flowers and plants, etc., natural objects will carry a particular energetic signature. They'll have meaning. You know, the same way like you could communicate with spices if you wanted to convey a flavor, or if somebody was very, if the recipient, if the person you were sending it to were very food oriented, you could send them a combination of spices and just kind of impart it, and it carries a meaning. Sorry, I'm download. They're saying this has to be, this has to be conveyed, now the rocking. This is all information that needs to be conveyed. It's very circular. It's so interesting that it's all circular. So what I started to say about the text, and then I changed, sorry, this is so incredibly non-linear. The point they want to make is that all things communicate. So in the third dimension, where things are, it's largely based in duality, and there's, we're departing from black and white thinking. Thank you. Even the text in the third dimensional paradigm that we're leaving is black and white and linear. And it's also, as a consequence, it's very masculine. So one of the things that, thank you, they're saying this is really important. They're telling it to me. They're saying, yes, this is really important. You have to write about this. This is the thing they wanted me to say. It's feminine communication. We're moving away from text as the dominant mode of communication. and they want me to talk about the other ways that everything speaks, and they want me to talk about the don't forget about this. Nonetheless, I am going to have to structure this because even I'm confused. There's when the line of flowers came in Barb Brewer's session, and they're saying it, they're saying it's because they want to talk to her. They want to talk to her. So, she's got fans. And they're saying that they're around her all the time, and this problem is not, sorry, hang on. This isn't something that just happens to her. There are lots of people who want to know how this works and want to know if they're receiving messages. Because I know that Barb Brewer she gets great dreaming. She knows what's what. But for some reason, the fairies and the elves are around her constantly, and it's more. I think it's more that they want to. They want you to recognize how they speak to you. I think that's what it is. They're like kind of demanding. like we're trying to get through, and like she thinks that this wasn't it. I think that's what we're talking about. It's like there's certain forms of communication that, because of our conditioning in the culture, we think that that's not spirit communication. But really, everything speaks. And they're very, very, they're saying, yes, 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 we are here. They really want you to know that they're here. So they're just very excited because the more people acknowledge their existence, like we sent you this and this and this and this and this, you know, like, and you walked by and thought it was nothing. I don't mean just Barb. I mean, lots of people do that. So I keep trying to get this point out, and I keep distracting myself. So when the line of flowers, it was kind of text, but it was, instead of letters, it was colorful flowers. So the color has meaning, the shape has meaning. It does seem significant that the what I would call the letters were all overlapped. There was no space. There's no division. So we're talking automatically about more connectivity. And then that kind of hovered in the air. And what I was noticing were fields of, how do I say that? Fields of feeling. It's kind of like if, hey, get your head out of the oven. Go find the pig. Oh, there she is. Sorry, she's under the table. Never mind, just go lay down. I might have to turn the light on. How do I say this? It's almost like if you had a bunch of mist, but it was clear. Hey! That's the one that's naughty. If you had a bunch of mist, and it was kind of like, but it had like a size to it, like let's say 3 by 3. And somehow you could take this field of mist that was like approximately 3 by 3 or 4 by 4 or something. It's basically just a ball of mist. And you could like place it, and it has a feeling to it. It's a field of feeling. It's not a color, although you could have fields of color and that would mean something too. Colors generally mean something according to the chakras. And combinations of colors. Like, for example, we know that green is the heart, and we know that blue is the throat chakra for expression and communication, that if you had like turquoise, it was like a combination, or teal or something like that, it would indicate like heart-centered communication. And what I would suggest is, so sometimes, you know, where if you cultivate your sensitivity to energies that are just like floating around the room, which I'm sure you've dealt with if you've ever walked into a room and like, you know, like it's pretty freaking tense in here, like you don't even have to talk to anybody or see anything, you just like, or have you ever walked through a space and like the energy in this particular space is just really funky? They get through to you, but it's just has a different quality. I would suggest that in the beginning, just start noticing what qualities things have, and then notice what sticks out at you. The way, what I noticed in communicating with the elf to Barb is that it shows, like this thing might be kind of unique to me, or maybe not unique, but I know that this is the way, like this is something that I know it works this way for me, is that I read terrain. I'm very location based. I don't know if that's left over from like Joan of Arc and being so France focused. But I am very terrain based, and so often I will get shown by spirit a location, and I can look at the location and know exactly what it means. I will know what they're trying to show me, and I can analyze. It seems to be kind of a weird superpower that I have, but I really do have it. I frequently get shown just flashes of a location. And then on top of that, they will feed me information, and depending on where something shows up, I'll know what it means. Like if they show me pavement or something. Oh, basically, if they show you a situation or an object, you can usually the answer is right in front of you, and it's not that difficult to figure out if you do like kind of a stylistic analysis. If you've ever taken art history, hang on 1 second, it's dark in here. I'm gonna 1 minute. All right. If you can kind of tell by the qualities, the shape means something, the color means something, what it's made of means something, and then depending on the way it's presented, you can kind of figure stuff out. 1 second. Oh, you're going to take his chair. Like when we were talking to the elf, I saw the line of text, and then I saw a school where it seemed to have something to do with well, it was a school where I had hoped at that time to start a school for spirit communication, art, and basically a school for new starseeds. And there's a trail. That's probably why they showed it to me. There's a nature trail in the woods where we built tons of fairy houses. My kids and I built probably 20 fairy houses there, and we would go back and tend to them. And that was really neat. And that's probably why So it has to do with, and it's a school, so it probably has to do with the fairy realm. And even though I didn't get the school, that's what they showed me. And that's where the elf was, when the elf was talking, I was seeing the parking lot of the school right next to the nature trail where we build the fairy houses. And there was a line of flowers, and then there were several different fields of, like, it looked like tension in the air that had like a colorful I don't know how to say this. Kind of like if you could put watercolor or colored light over something just like in the middle of the air. And it seems to be, there was like one in the background and then there was one closer up. So it's the kind of thing that you just want to pay attention to. And then if you don't know what something means, you just say, what does that mean? Or clarify. Can you clarify that? So I wanted to talk about more about spirit communication. Let's see. Am I going to get to this part? There is something I keep meaning to talk about, but I want to finish this first. And plus, I got yelled at this one. I really yelled. My guides chastised me, so I feel like I should do the spirit communication thing first, because they told me it was important. Okay. Hi, Andrew. So I was going to talk to you about. This was fascinating. I had a dream. Speaking of spirit communication. Apparently, I said. They've been telling me for a really long time that I was going to write this book, and they said, and it was going to be the Ascension Ark, etc. But I am so fucking tired of Joan of Arc everything. I really never want to talk about that again. I want to move into different terrain. At any rate, I had a dream, probably maybe last week, could have been 2 weeks ago. And it really was pretty fascinating. No, I guess it was a couple weeks ago. All right. But this was pretty fascinating. And if we're gonna, I knew that I was gonna talk about it on a live stream, and it does make a really good example of the way dream interpretation works. I love dream interpretation. Love it. If anybody has a dream they want interpreted, definitely have a private session with me, because I just love that shit. So in my dream, it was in this apartment, and we're going to talk about stylistic analysis too. So stylistic analysis is one of the things that you do when you're talking with spirit and you want to basically know what something means. You basically just look at the symbol or look at the object, look at the conditions, and you break it down to just describe its qualities with no meaning attached to it. You know, like this cup is green. It's mostly round. It's full of tea. The tea bag is still in it. It's this particular green. The tea's been sweetened. It has creamer. Tea bag's still in it. Handle's comfortable, and then you can kind of extrapolate. Let's say they use this as a symbol. You kind of extrapolate. Green is heart center. I think you get the point. Okay, I'm just going to tell you this dream. In the dream, it was in this apartment, and there were basically three. It was in this apartment, but there was, you know, when you have a dream where it is one location, but then there's something else that comes from a different place. It started in this apartment. And the whole place was in this apartment. But there were basically 3 main centers of interest. There were basically, it's kind of like 3 stations. And the first one was, and this is really there. When you come in the door, there's a shoe shelf. And in this dream, there were tons of guinea pigs. There's really only one guinea pig in my house, but in this dream there were a number of guinea pigs just running loose on the floor. And there was Carmen. Carmen is my lizard, and she was, for some reason, she was cold. So I paid attention to this because she's cold-blooded, but she's not normally cold. But for some reason, I knew she was cold. And in the dream, she was on the floor. She was on the floor there. And then there was an orange Abyssinian guinea pig, which is a rough-coated guinea pig. It was orangey red. It was kind of like russet. And there were lots of guinea pigs running around, but this one orange one, there were 3 things. There was, on the floor was my lizard, Carmen, who was there and very cold. And then there was a boot. And the reason that's important, there was a boot, a purple slouch boot, which I actually do own. And the reason it's significant is because there were, it's a purple velour boot, and it slouches like it's fabric, and so it kind of, you know, it's a slouch boot, comes down. And then next to that was this scurrying guinea pig that was rough coated and orangey red. And in the dream, the one boot was in the middle, and it's purple. It's a purple boot, purple velour slouch boot. And next to that was this guinea pig. So it went lizard, boot, guinea pig. And in the dream, I put my left hand down, and normally guinea pigs are hard to catch when they're on the floor. They run around. But she didn't. I put my left hand down, and in the dream, she leaned into it, and she just let me pick her right up. The boot is significant because, number one, it was purple. So purple is like crown chakra, and it was down on the floor. So it was something to do about the top part, the top coming down. It's also, because it was a slouch boot, it's something that when you zip it up, it goes up to your knee, and then it slouches down. So there's very much something about something on the top coming down. It's also has a flavor of like putting your foot down. Something about and because it was purple, so something about the top reaching the bottom. And I know that I've been trying to get grounded, and I'm not entirely sure why. I'm not sure why Carmen, my lizard, was so cold, but I knew she was. And in real life, I would pick her up and warm her up, but that's not what happened. The other interesting thing to me was that this particular boot, I have 2 pairs of purple slouch boots. I had bought a pair, and I thought I lost them, and then I was in an airport and I saw another pair that looked exactly like them, and so I went in and bought them because I thought I lost the first one, and then I found the first one. So what that means to me, but only one boot was there. So you have, again, the 3-to-1 ratio, which for me anyway has significance. So the single boot is right in the middle of the guinea pig. So guinea pigs also, guinea pigs are usually associated with experimentation. And so it has something to do with experimenting with the lower 2 chakras. because that really has been my challenge, is getting back into embodiment. I've been totally detached from my lower two chakras since 2013, when I shut out of my body. I've been like walking around in my body, but most of me is out. Most of me is still out, but I've been very, very ungrounded and couldn't reach my lower two chakras at all. I just couldn't reach them. So the fact that I put my feminine hand, the left side down, my left hand down, and was able to pick up. So it's something about experimenting with probably my feminine nature, having to do with being grounded and creativity, is how I would read that. And then that was the first vignette. And then there was a, so if you look for common themes. Also, my lizard was painted rainbow, which he actually is in real life. So there on the dining room table was a Christmas tree it was an artificial Christmas tree that was lit with rainbow lights, only it was in 3 pieces, and only the lower 2 were lit up and functional. The top one, the top of the tree, was detached and on the floor. It had no lights on it, and it was also black. So we're talking about something on the top is being detached. And then what I was thinking about that was that normally that's where you would put the star. So it's like, if that's kind of like reverse duality, which I think of as being on the bottom, but I think of, yeah, that's another thing. So I'm thinking that it's like departure from the Savior model is what I was thinking. Because if the Savior model is like the star does all the work and it's this bright white light, but you remove the black and the white and then what you have in the rest of the Christmas tree, use basically like the rainbow grid, like the Rainbow Warriors, because it was all lit up with rainbow lights. It was just the star, like, you know, like the black part was off. Basically, it's like you got rid of the gunk. So I'm thinking that has to do with the Joan of Arc template being finally clear of all of that crap, which has taken a really long time. Also, again, you see the thing with the top coming off, the top coming down. So it's just one of those things. So if this was your dream, and it was my dream, I said, well, if I want to analyze it, do a stylistic analysis. And also there were 3. There's the thing with a boot and the guinea pig. There's the tree, and then there's also the other part I didn't tell you yet. The other part, I love you too. And the other part is something that's not here in real life. It's where the stove is normally. But in this dream, it was a cube, like literally a cubicle. There was like a tiny little room that was an actual square, and it didn't have any windows at all. So I'm thinking this really does have to do with probably, all of it has to do with the Joan of Arc thing. I've been trapped in this apartment and unable to leave until all of the Joan of Arc shit was cleared, and it's taken me about 6 years, 7 years. It's been nasty. At any rate, there was a cubicle. It's 555 right now. There was this little cube, and there were no windows, and it was blue. So it's blue for communication. So I'm thinking it probably has something to do with the messenger. And when I saw, which is what they call Joan of Arc, and when I looked into this cube, I remember thinking, if that were mine, I would use that space to write in, except it had no tools for writing. It had no, there was no place to put a computer. There was no computer. There was not a pad and pencil, but there was a gigantic, overstuffed, really, really over squishy blue recliner that was like a Barca lounger or something like that, like a lazy boy, and it also had a swivel so it could turn. But when I also there was it had wallpaper that had it was all blue wallpaper, and it, you know, that vinyl wallpaper. So it was like, these are important details, because when you go to, you know, analyze something, you need to pay attention to what is the material, what does it make you, what associations do you have with it. The wallpaper in this case was synthetic and vinyl, you know, that really thick, like emphasis on artificial. And there was also a border, so it has something to do with borders. So borders and blue and communication, and the overstuffed reclining chair was really huge, and also the kind of thing that if you sat on it, it also wasn't sitting up, it was reclining back, so it would be the kind of thing that would be really difficult to get out of, as it has been. And first it was facing in, and it basically took up the entire space. But I swiveled it out so that the communication, instead of facing inward into this tiny little space, was facing outward so that you could finally leave. And I feel like that's the point. But there was one other thing that was in that little space, and it was an aquarium. It was a huge aquarium. It was gorgeous. It's a really beautiful aquarium. Really thick glass. Like, that was noticeable too, that the glass was so thick. And but here's the thing, it had been very, very badly neglected over a long period of time. And it's something like you could revitalize that really. Like like when I first looked in it, I was like, oh my God, I had no idea this was here. This is fantastic. This aquarium is beautiful. But I'm surprised anything's alive. It had been allowed through neglect to and nobody had been fed or anything, like the animals hadn't been fed, and there were still fish in there that were still alive. They were bright orange and very metallic, and I immediately thought, like, kind of like cash cow. Like, fish are symbols of abundance, money for sure, especially koi, but also goldfish are symbols for money. And there weren't tons of fish in there, but there was more than two. And they were really bright and metallic. And I thought, I can't believe these things are still alive. This is amazing. But if you put any attention to this, you know, it wouldn't take a lot to bring this entire tank back up to snuff, because it's gorgeous and probably really expensive. It was really sturdy and in very good shape, but it had evaporated. Like, that was, I noticed that it had evaporated, and there were little white lines. You know how water evaporates, or especially fish water, like it'll leave white lines. And it had gone down and down and down and down and down and down and down until it was about halfway. It was only halfway full. And so something, again, is like the top came down. And in the Christmas tree, the top was off, and now the lights were lower. And the slouch boot, the purple slouch boot, the top crown chakra color is now on the floor. So it's all about, like, 1, 2, 3, something that starts up here and comes down. And then the last thing about the the dream is that there was also a big hermit crab in the tank. It was a big white hermit crab. And normal hermit crabs, this was a marine one, which usually wouldn't be in the same tank with goldfish, but all right. It had a big white shell, and then it was covered with lime, which is really kind of weird. It was, you know, that chalky kind of lime stuff in the water, but it was bright, bright, bright red. So anytime, I know for myself, anytime I see a red and white combination, that also means something. Colors can be read, the same way numbers can be read like sentences. Colors can be read like sentences too. Shapes can be read like sentences. So the hermit crab started to come out, and he was bright red and still alive, and I was like just amazed that that thing was still alive. And then I swiveled the chair outward, and so I feel like it had to do with I'm finally coming out of my shell, or getting out of the finally getting out of the Joan of Arc energy and getting back to myself, or finally speaking out. The hermit crab started to come out. Oh, also, it was one of those things that in the dream, there was, for some reason, this little room that had the Barca Lounger in it. That little room was off of a marina, but there was no way to get to it. It had docks and sailboats out there, and there was no way to get. Basically, there was no way to leave that way, and it was all something like I couldn't get out. Just haven't been able to get out. So so I feel like it's timely, especially with this, what? Since this morning, I keep wanting to say I was scolded, but it wasn't really scolded. It was just more like the whip card in if you have a Lenormand deck, the whip card. It's like chop chop. It's like something, you know, like get your ducks in a row, start something. It's kind of, it's a little severe. It can be a little no nonsense, and that's what it was like. And it was like, you gotta start now. Get ready. You're ready, or you've prepared enough. So I know that something. They told me this morning too. I really do have like other information I want to tell you. I don't know what I'm going to be doing, but they say that like get prepared, like you're about to do this now, and like you've been prepared for it. I don't. Hey, get out of there! He eats her pellets. Whoop! You okay? All right. Yes. So I was going to talk about, where's this thing to? Okay, totally changing the subject. No, I'm not going to talk about that right now. I'm going to talk about this. I know that I'm going to be talking about the new financial system, because that's a big thing that I'm here to work on. Huge thing that I'm here to work on. Oh, okay, government. Yeah. So, Andrew, you still there? One of the things I really love about, sometimes I will get a message, and then other people like who are working in the same strata, I will talk to them, and they will have gotten the same message that I did at the same time, which I just love it when that happens. And it doesn't really come as a huge surprise to me anymore, but I really, really like it. I was talking to Andrew, and not Andrew Paradiso, Andrew Langlier, and he said something that I got a message that, well, you are the new government. Like it's kind of a comprehensive feed of information. So sometimes when you hear something, I will convey it in a sentence as though it came in a sentence. And sometimes it does come in actual words, but sometimes it just gets put into your head in a big knowing. And one of the things that I've been grateful for so much time alone, even though sometimes I'm really lonely, but the solitude has been really good. Number one, it's silent, but I also get these downloads. So I was, and some of them are. Sometimes you don't feel lonely because you're surrounded, and I'm just surrounded. So I was walking through the apartment, getting information about the new government and the way it works, and that we are the new government. Those who are going through the ascension process first, particularly there's like a certain strata, and the way that we're bypassing elections, and we should. It doesn't mean you can't participate in elections also, but we're bypassing. We're creating a network. We're creating the government in energetic form, and it's going to function so much better and actually be fair. You can't fix. I can't remember who said it. Was it Einstein who said you can't fix a problem from the same level of thinking that as the problem? And you really can't fix. You can't fix the government from elections. You have to go and change everything always. Energetic strata or energetic platforms will descend. Yeah, we have to create it from an energetic place. Those of us who are working energetically, we have the new template, we have the new light codes, we know how it's supposed to work, we know how it's supposed to look. I've been listening very much to Handel's Messiah, which is probably my favorite piece of music. It is my favorite piece of music. And the government shall be upon his shoulders. And I've been thinking about that a lot. There's a template, there's a way that it is designed to work, where it will actually work. I don't think I'm going to talk a lot about that, but I wanted to mention. I think I'm going to get it. When I talk about that, it needs to be more structured. That's generally my problem, I'm finding. Anyway, I keep wanting to go back to this little diagram, that little thing right there. With the financial system, there's a way it works, and I was told to kind of reassure, to explain the way it works so that certain people would have less fear. Because I've said, I listened to my previous live stream, and then I want to go like drop in corrections, like wait. It's true, but I also want to tweak that a little bit. I was saying how when we're gradually leaving the monetary system. But there are certain things that need to be in place. So I'm not saying you can't have money anymore, you can't have anything in savings, although these things are definitely going to be, they're going to be, what's the word for that? Morphed out? There's going to be a point where people are just, you're not going to need it anymore. You just really aren't. And so right now what we have to do is move always out of fear and into trust. So I know that this is one of the main things that I'm going to be talking about. The people on the leading edge. So I'm one of those. I have a soul contract that I'm on the very, very cutting edge of, what the hell do you call it? I'm on the cutting edge. So it doesn't mean that everybody, like if you want to do things the 5D way, you have to do what I do. There's going to be, like, the rest of the population is going to catch up to that, but they're going to do it probably a lot slower. It's my job to be as far sighted as possible. So we were talking about the walk of trust last time. The walk of trust is the walk of 0 point, where, and it's kind of like walking on water. So the walk of trust involves carrying nothing with you and just manifesting things as you need it, as you go, but only as much as you need in that moment. So it's also a particular skill set that, and the practice of it teaches you, it kind of builds your trust muscle. That's exactly what it does. I'm going to turn off the fan 1 second. The walk of trust builds your trust muscle. And then the more you learn to, it's like anything else. The more you do it, the better you get at it. The more trust you have that it actually works. So the masses in general population, aren't going to be doing this necessarily right away, but they will be doing it eventually. But what has to happen, the reason, I feel like I'm doing a bad job explaining this. The reason so many of us on the leading edge, the very, very cutting edge, the reason so many of us are beneath broke, it's because, how do I say this? Okay, you know, we're trying to do something specific, and it requires certain things of us that it's not gonna, it's gonna be a lot easier for the general population now that if we go first and we do this specific thing, we're creating a kind of a channel, or a kind of creating a stream, like a stream bed. In the third dimension, especially you know, the third dimensional paradigm, there's a strong, we're coming from that, which has a really strong sense of, like, if everybody's doing it, it's going to be safe and tried and true. Like, if something is tried and true, then that kind of means it's safe. It gives a sense of security to participants. Like, everybody does it this way, so I'm going to do it this way too. So it gives us a sense of security. There are a lot of people who prefer to, as my friend always said one time, take public transportation. She doesn't want to be on the leading edge. She wants to take public transportation, which is a real good way of saying, I want to go when the crowd goes. Like, when it becomes normal, then I'll do it. She doesn't have my job. My job is to go and create what's normal, what the new normal, like the new thing. So one of the problems that we've had in changing larger systems, social systems, is that there's a habituated way of doing it. So like the habituated responses, the belief barrier is really hard to get through, because people are given a stimulus and they automatically, I know what to do when this happens, and you're supposed to do this. And so they go and do the one thing. Getting people to change that is really, really tough. And a lot of people, most people in the third dimension, coming from the third dimensional paradigm, even if they're on the ascension track, we've just been taught that, certain things feel comfortable and they feel automatic. And so there's I don't know how to say this, but there's kind of a sense of like babies need cribs, or babies like to be swaddled. Babies like to be held and contained. It feels safe to them. So you want to have that feeling with the new system, but it doesn't exist yet. So one of the things that I'm doing, and other people who are also on the leading edge, who have virtually no money right now, doesn't mean we're never going to have money, doesn't mean we're not going to have wealth, or an abundant system. Is that calico? I think I heard a car door. But it's a little bit like, we have to build that. So if you imagine a large sheet of styrofoam or clay, something like clay, a sheet of clay, and if you're water and you pour water on there, kind of like a like if there's no stream yet, it feels very unstable, like you go all over the place because there's no channel. For some reason, I like the styrofoam, even though I don't like styrofoam. If I, just myself, take like a pencil or something and just score a little channel in the styrofoam, and then I pour the water, of course the water is going to go into the channel. So remember I was talking about the ladder of ascension, that those of us who are like kind of coming down from space, like star seeds, etc., and we tend to travel better. We need space to travel because energy moves like water, and the water is going to hit the wall. It's not going to go through the wall. But so if water is traveling, it needs a door. It needs a space to go through. But not everybody travels like that. Physically based people, they are looking for a rung on the ladder. They want something solid before they step on it. They want something that's already there. So I will go first go back to the sheet of styrofoam. I will go first to establish the new pattern. Not comfortable for me. I would much prefer to have far greater energetic flow. 2, it's coming. It'll come. But it's kind of like the sheet of styrofoam with a line in it. The more people go, or let's go back to clay, because styrofoam doesn't dissolve. The more people go on that path, the deeper and wider the channel becomes. So then it looks pretty secure to those who are physically based. And then to be like, all right, I'll try it. I'll go. And then it's like a water slide. You can't get out of it once it's really deep. But that's fine, because what we're doing is making corrections we're making corrections to the template. We're building the template from the new template from the corrected patterns. And we know what the corrected patterns are because we've gone through the purifying process, and we know the way it's supposed to be. The new light, the new light codes come in, and then we're not going to go back. But what I wanted to say about I guess I'll just tell you the story. So this is going back probably 2014, 15. I was living in this apartment and was under really serious attack legally. My kids were being taken away, and I was accused of all kinds of things. And it was really, really dark. And I wasn't making any money at all. I wasn't receiving any money. Didn't have a job. And things got so bad at one point that we ran out of dog food. Got my 2 dogs. And ran out of dog food. And there was one night, and I couldn't reach anybody. Nobody would lend me money. I think I didn't have a bank account at the time. And I just really needed a bag of dog food. And there was one evening that we ran out. I also didn't have a car. No place to walk to, even if I had money. I just didn't know how to get dog food. So I wound up that night going through all of my groceries, and we were down to like dust in the cereal box, like the dregs of the cereal boxes. And that's what they ate. I gave my dogs all of the human food that they could eat. And then we were out of that. And then I was like, I have no idea, 0 idea what I'm going to do for dog food tomorrow or anything else. And I went to bed and in tears and prayed and prayed and prayed and didn't have anybody to ask. And just please let something happen. And somebody was coming to take me to do my laundry. And the following morning, this is so amazing. The following morning, I opened my door and she was coming to take me to the laundromat. And I was carrying my laundry to her car. And she said, "What's that?" And not 10 feet away from my door was a 40-pound bag of high quality dog food with a sign on it that said free. Right out here. And I was like, okay. All right, thank you. So that I was like thrilled with that miracle, told a bunch of people like, I got this miracle and there was this free dog food. And then eventually, of course, that bag of dog food ran out. And then I had no idea how I was going to get dog food. And we had received an eviction notice at the same time. And and I didn't know where I was going to go. And I was like as freaked out as it was. I was really, really freaked out and crying a lot, devastated. And had no idea what to do. And I also needed boxes. I was trying to save as much as my stuff as possible because they were going to throw it out on the street. And a friend of mine said, oh, and I guess I got my car back for some reason. I had my car at that time. And And I thought, well, I guess we're going to be living in the car. But a friend of mine had said you can keep boxes in my basement, some of your stuff. So I needed boxes. So someone said, if you go to the right underneath PetSmart, they get rid of all their boxes at night. And anyway, you can load up on boxes there. So I went there. I had my girls in the car, and the only thing I had was a roll of duct tape and a box cutter. And I got not only did I get all these boxes, but they were throwing out bags of dog food that were split. And they, they had rips in them. And, but the only thing I had in my car, the only thing was this, was duct tape. So I wound up, putting tape over the rips and got 3 bags of dog food. High quality dog food. And that was pretty cool too. You learn. So now, when I first started the process, I would go through the just dark fear every single time this happened. And panic. There was really a lot of panic every time that happened, which is understandable. Now, because it's several years later, I know what I was doing. I know why it happened. And I know what I was learning from it. And now when it happens, I really notice what's happening in my body. How to what degree is there solid fear? Like sometimes I will feel a wave of fear, but it passes. It's not like what it used to be. It used to be like a really something really dense and pervasive that never left, that you just had to learn to live with. It's not like I haven't had that. But now I know on the walk of trust, I have learned, number one, I now know that it was a skill set, that it is a skill set. And I know that it's an essential skill set to have, to build. And I'm going to be talking more about it because it's not like because I had to gain it. I had to gain this thing. It's not like I had it. So the reason we need to have this ability or this knowledge on how to walk on the walk of trust, and I'm going to be talking a lot more about it. When I'm fully grounded, it will be more structured, probably a little more linear and comprehensive and understandable. Part of the new system involves no hoarding. It's not that you can't have lots of stuff. It's not that you can't have a large income stream. It's that it moves. This is a real major thing. It's in the third dimension, we're taught to have things like savings accounts or build a retirement fund it's a platform of fear-based energy that the whole structure is built from. Just in case, because I might need this later, therefore I'm going to hoard and stop the flow. Wealth in the fifth dimension, the wealth is more, it's based in flow. It's based in trust. It's just like breathing. You don't travel around with, canisters of oxygen on your back just in case you run out when you're older. You have this trust that somehow it's all around you. The oxygen is all around you. And you will receive what you need. And therefore, since you know that you're guaranteed, Your safety is guaranteed. Your well-being is guaranteed. You don't have to be in fear and grasping in a state of lack. You can operate in a state of trust knowing that oxygen is all around. Something will come, but it's only going to come just as you need it, because the whole wealth is built in flow. It's based in flow. In the fifth dimension, the whole financial system has to do with taking as much as you need for yourself and then releasing. Yeah, the release is really important, because so often we're scared to do that because we think we won't get enough. It won't get replenished. What if something happens? I'm going to need this just in case. So we go into stasis out of fear, and that is its own vibrational investment. You're either investing in fear or you're investing in trust and love, and whatever, with your own personal energetic signature, because everything that comes through you is going to carry your personal vibration, your vibrational signature. So if you're investing more in love and more in giving, then that's the ocean you're going to swim in. So part of the, I say so too much. Part of the downfall of the third dimension is that also the financial system is automatically kind of screwy, because one of the things that they do at any time a planet is conquered, if you want to conquer a planet, usually when a planet is conquered, the first thing they do is install a financial system. And that's because it reduces especially in the third dimension, it reduces the medium of exchange to one thing. It's very singular. So that's one of the reasons it gets so tight and so dense. If you reduce a way of exchanging to just one thing between, like with one other party, like I'm going to give you this and you're going to give this to me. It's an exchange between two people, but it's like the person who gets the service usually is the person who pays, and they have to use money because that's the medium of exchange. We're moving into a realm of multiplicity, and there's actually there's a lot less insistence on money as being the only thing you get, or the only medium of exchange. You're going to want this skill set, because also as we begin to interact with other planets, not everything uses money. A lot of places don't have money at all. You're going to want to get away from that as a medium of exchange. Nonetheless, when you begin to operate this way, there's actually a certain kind of magic to it too, because like when you're walking on the walk of trust and you're free to give your services or help or whatever to whoever you feel called for, knowing that the energetically some way, somehow it's going to come back to you. Whatever you give is going to come back to you. If that person doesn't have money but they need your services, just give them your services. One way or another, something that you need is going to come back, and it's like not up to you to control it. That's the beauty of it. So that's one reason why we just need to build up the trust muscle. And most people, that really isn't taught too much. They don't teach you to wing it too much. It's important. It's an important skill. Planning is sometimes an important skill. I'm not knocking it. Sometimes I really amaze myself with the way that I've changed. I think sometime I'm going to do a live stream that has to do with I don't know, like things we used to do. You know, I graduated from the New York Academy of Art, Graduate School of Figurative Art. That school, it might be, but I think it's probably different now. There are certain things that like were so incredibly precise. You wouldn't think that just the emphasis on precision and control and accuracy and planning. I was also, for a while, you wouldn't know this, except I'm telling you, I used to be a charged scenic artist for Broadway and opera houses and in Hollywood. And I would travel to see. I traveled around the country with my dog and my bird, and painted. Did a lot of operas. Did a lot of scenery. Managed teams. Did budgets, like Norwalk Opera House, and I was their charge scenic for La Boheme. And I had 6 people working underneath me, and you wouldn't think, like it's not like I don't have that in my background, I have that in my repertoire, but you wouldn't know how I'm like so friggin' non-linear. Hey, guy or Bigfoot. So interdimensional. But that's in my background, and the amount of tightness and accuracy. I was actually gonna do a live stream where I brought on my my cast drawings from my first semester at the New York Academy of Art. And they were supposed to be tight. It's not like, whatever. There's a premium there placed on things that are absolutely measured, plotted. But now I'm going all 5th dimensional. And I hope I get back to painting. I really do. I haven't painted. You know, the energy came up. It really did. When the Joan of Arc energy started to flood out, like very, very, very much like ink. Like if I was water and happy as a clam, and I had a good life, and I was happy, and we had friends, and I had a husband, I had 2 kids, and I liked it, and then the Joan of Arc memories came back, and it's like you've got this car. My guides had said in 2013, basically they asked me if I was sure that I wanted to go up, and I was so gung-ho, I was so excited, I was like, yes, I want to go. And they asked me for 2 weeks. I really remember this. They asked me for 2 weeks. And I thought that my husband Michael was going. And they said, he can't go where you're going. Which is like, sounds ominous. They said, he can't go where you're going. And so I had already asked him, I had already told him that I was going to ask him for a divorce if he didn't go to therapy. Or, didn't try something. But then I asked him for a divorce because they said he can't go where you're going, but are you sure? you really want to do this. And they said, if you, I had been told a couple of times that I didn't know who I was, and when I found out, I was going to be really traumatized. And for some reason, for some stupid fucked up reason, that did not, I mean, I believe spirit, but they told me I was going to be traumatized. I was like, all right. I don't know. Just I didn't really think so. I guess I just really didn't believe them, because I've had for real, I've had a very, very hard life. I had a very, very difficult childhood, a lot of trauma. And so when they told me I was going to be traumatized, I thought that I wouldn't, because if I've been through what I've already been through, and I healed from that, you know, I'm sure it'll be fine. And I had no idea. I had no idea. And then when those memories came back, I really was traumatized, at least as much as I had been in my childhood, and really regretted it. I've regretted saying yes, I'll remember. Yes, I want to go. But it's one of those things that, like, because that particular, my karmic history was so enormous. You know, there's group karma too. You know, you've got personal karma, and that can sometimes be a bitch. But then group karma, like if you're Joan of Arc and you lead a whole bunch of people into battle. I didn't kill anybody, but I told them to. Good intentions aside, you got some really dark karma there. And when that came back, I've spent the last, probably 6 years, 7 years, working through it. And none of it was good. And it also, sometimes it's like it just keeps coming. Like, holy crap, I'm clear and clear for 3 years. And I went through the legal system, and I had to clear all of my issues with the legal system. I had to clear more health issues and custody issues. And now we're working on the finances. And I really am hoping for some good things. But I hope that what we're building, and I think it will, I hope we get a yield. I hope we get a good yield. Because it's been horrible. But what's coming, you know, we do have this golden age to look forward to. Oh! This isn't news, but if any of you know, if any of you have any updates or know anything about the med beds, the holographic med beds, I'm just chomping at the bit to get into a holographic med bed. For fuck's sake. We know the technology exists. I mean, it's not like they don't have it. I want it. And if any of you are listening to me and know anything about that, or know somebody who has access to one, I would really, really like that. Because I've suffered enough. I'm in really rough physical shape, and I'd like to go into a holographic med bed and regrow teeth. I don't know if they can do that yet. I'm sure they can someplace. Anyway. Okay. What else was I going to say? Yeah, so so back to this little thing, that thing with a groove. Down the road, the more people do that, it's going to start to feel much more secure to those behind us. So what we have to do now is just go on the walk of trust more, so that it becomes something that's proven. Because there are those who are coming behind tend to varying degrees, they seek validation from an external source. The walk of trust, and those of us on the leading edge who are like just walking in 0 point, where the reason we're talking about the walk of 0 point is that you always have nothing. But if you're doing it sufficiently and fluently, emphasis on fluently, you always have enough, but you're never carrying anything. So that's why it's substantially lighter. You don't have to carry a big, you don't have to have anything external. But what you have when it's all up and running, so it's not quite up and running yet to be an entire system, but it will be. It will be. What you do have is basically you have instant manifestation. I'm not saying that something will necessarily appear in your hand, although that is possible. That is possible. They do, a lot of people do that more often in India and in China. I know in India, the reports that I've heard directly where people saw somebody literally something just appeared in his hand. All of those reports have been out of India. It's interesting. Anyway, but it's totally possible too. What did I start to say? I feel like I started to say something. Walk of trust. Oh, that you're never carrying anything. So that when you get exactly what you need, but like then you use it, and then you always, for a time, those of us on the leading edge, until this whole system gets up and running, remember when I said what you're receiving and what you're giving are equal. So if you do that, then you're walking in 0 point, but you also always have everything. For example, if I'm hungry and I'm thinking, wow, I really wish I had, I don't know, cheeseburger for some reason. I don't eat meat. I wish I had something. I wish I had a banana. And somebody comes and they don't give you money to go buy a banana. They just might give you a banana. Or they might give you money for a banana. But it's not like you have extra. On the leading edge, truly walking in 0 point means you have everything that you need. You could just ask for what you need, and you just somehow or other. I did that with bunk beds once. Like my girls wanted bunk beds, and I really just, it's like, I'd really like some bunk beds. And I can't even remember how we got them, but like, it was almost like the day or the next day. So I think somebody just asked us, like, hey, my sister's getting rid of her bunk bed. Do you want her bunk beds? It's like, yeah, as a matter of fact, we really do. And there was a canopy. And that was neat. And when you're operating at full throttle, you can do that with absolutely everything. And there's a lot less waste. And it's not like you get handed crappy stuff, too. For some reason, this has to do with your self-worth. If you think that you won't get it, you won't. If you think you're not worth it, or that nobody will give you something really good, then that's true. There are still some, how do I want to say this? There are still some corruptions in the systems and certain I'll use myself as an example. Up until just recently, there really has, and it might even still be in place, I'm not sure, there really has been a specific blockage around me, left over from the Joan of Arc lifetime. And the reason that no matter how much I tried to clear it, and went to other people. I mean, this is years of very, very, very intense work. And high level healers and shamans and sessions. And I was already an energy healer. If I can't clear it, you know, I did access consciousness and EFT and all of these processes. There are some, so somebody said, I think it was, who was it? I think it was Barb Brewer, actually. I think it was. Oh, man, it was such a fair point. Totally fair point. And she said, how come if you were Joan of Arc and you've got all of it, like you've got these like spiritual chops, how come your life is so terrible? Like, which is true. It really has been. It's been really hard. And the reason, so I totally get that point. It's a totally fair question. But I also know why. It's because the task, number one, what I'm cutting through, what I'm trying to get through is ginormous, really staggering size. And that's why it's taken so long. And also, I'm the transmuter for 100% of the negative alteration of Mary, which is a ridiculous thing to say, but it's true. I'm doing 100% of it. So we're trying to totally redo, get out all of the corrupted patterns, every last thing, particularly with women, all of the toxic, the bastardized codes, etc. All of that stuff had to be cleared up, which means I need to go, in order to do that, to do the particular job that my soul signed up to do. I have to go through every last piece of it. So it's either, most people are not that stupid. Apparently I thought it was a fine idea, or ambitious. I'm nicer to myself if I applaud the fact that I'm very ambitious or whatever. It's also my job because it's my job, because I've been doing this for a long time. And we signed up for, it's like the group that I'm in signed up for a very extensive job over lifetimes that are all working together. And this is kind of like the final piece, I hope. And so I just picked up a whopper of a task. And so every time I finish one thing, I go right into another one. And I'm really hoping it's done now. I hoped it was done when I got a divorce. And then it wasn't. I really, really, really hope it's done now. At any rate, what was I going to say about that? I thought I was going to say something else. Yeah. Oh, I was going to talk about why I needed my father's advice, but I couldn't use any of it. Hang on one second. I'm turning this on. I know. You have eaten. No. You hear her? She's loud. Why don't you go get your pig? So my father's father lived in Los Angeles. Okay. My father was, I adored my father, but I frustrated him terribly because my whole life he would try to give me advice. He would give me advice. He would give me all kinds of advice. He was in Los Angeles and very what you'd think of like people who live in Los Angeles. He was very very into status, very interested in money. And less interested in money, but like status, and there was a way you were supposed to be. And he would give me advice about what he thought I should do, and then I wouldn't do it. And it made him, I'm sorry to say, it made him feel really like I didn't value his opinion. And that's not true. It's just that I couldn't use any of his, it's not that he gave me bad advice. It's that he gave me advice for where he thought I should go. And there's something about energetic signatures too, where like, remember like the ladder example of spaces and rungs? People who are coming from the third dimension will tell you what you have to do, and their intentions are good. And they might be giving very good advice too. But because I was going up and I was from, my energetic signature is miles away from, I can't even do, I can't go anywhere near what he wanted me to do. And I think he was very disappointed and very frustrated. But I needed his advice, and I wish I had I didn't think of it while he was still alive. He died like 2 years ago. And I still needed his advice, even though I couldn't take any of it. And the reason I needed his advice was because, kind of like if you're looking at the ladder, you need some, if I'm me and I flow on air, or I move the way water does, and I need the space, the only way I can navigate is if I know where the solidity is. It won't work for me, for sure. Definitely won't. But if he tells me, you know, I think you should do X, Y, Z, and it's right over there, I know perfectly well that that's a direction I can't go, which is useful. That's actually the information I needed. Like if that way is blocked, I know that if I try to do any of that, it's not going to work, because my energetic signature will respond to that in a totally different way. He doesn't even know that he doesn't know about energetic signatures at all. And he definitely doesn't know that mine is totally different. But if he tells me something that I should do, that means to me, I know already that that won't work, unless it's something like, you know, like an art technique or something. My father was an artist. So if he told me occasionally, if he told me something like, you should use this on your sculptural mold, then I would listen to him on that case. But something like, you know, like life advice, or I know that that won't work for me. But that's what you need, you know? You need something to compare it to. It's just as useful. I just know that if he wants me to go over here and that's solid and I know it won't work, I just know I'm going to go over here instead. So anyway, there was something else. Let's see. You know how... I've never done ayahuasca, but I do have some experience with leaving my body and getting lost. You know what, people go on ayahuasca trips, they will have somebody stay there and like watch over the physical person, watch the person, make sure they're safe, because that person is off on a journey or voyage or something. I don't know who needs to hear this, but I feel like hang on, I'm feeling around for it. I had that experience once where the people who were supposed to call me back didn't. somebody's supposed to be there to look over or to watch the person, to look over watch the person's physical circumstance and keep them safe. So Sarah Walker played that role for me. That was by soul contract. Because the work that I was doing was out of body, and I was out of body all the time and almost not anchored at all. And for a while she was looking after me physically, like she paid my rent, and like I was out of body all the time and working very, very intensely, but also couldn't find my way back. Originally I had a contract with Josh, actually, who was supposed to he called me. It's funny, I think he did the same thing with his wife. His wife went on an ayahuasca. I think it was ayahuasca. I don't know why I'm talking about this. It wasn't anything I planned at all, but I think she went on an ayahuasca trip one time and she got lost, and he called her back by sending her images of the children, and he was going to do the same thing with me, except he didn't. He left me. I shot out of my body, and he was like, oh, well. And it took me a really, really, really long time to find my way back. It's been very, very challenging. Extremely dark. Anyway, it'll be interesting to see what we do next. Apparently I'm going to be teaching spirit communication. So if any of you would like, if you have questions, if you'd like to if there's material that you would like to see me cover, feel free to shoot me a private message, and maybe I'll see. It's not like I don't have enough to say. Oh my God, I ramble. All right, anything else? This is a weird one. Do I always say that? Let's see, what else? If any of you can send a donation, that would be very, very helpful. I wanted to go get Advil and paper towels, and I don't have enough money. I have zero money right now. Let's see. Don't make love wrong. Yes, I wanted to talk about that just briefly. I think this might be the last thing I say. Don't make love wrong. One of the things that we're going to wind up doing in the future. Boy, this talk took a turn. I was just about to close it down, but now there's this. I forgot. Prioritize love especially over social protocol. That's going to be this huge thing. It's amazing to me. The number of, and sometime I'm going to have to do a whole big thing on social justice. Oh, I was going to talk about that too. Damn it. Okay, wait, what are we doing on time? How are we doing? How are we doing on time? I don't know. I can't tell. Okay, whatever. Too often, there are these social protocol, social rules that say you shouldn't love this person, or if you love this person, you shouldn't love this other person, or you can't pay attention to that person. Don't make love wrong. There are all sorts of things. Double check if you ever have the impulse. Just aim higher. Make sure that you're aiming higher every time you have have a choice point. It's a sacred choice point. Choices are sacred. And if you have a sacred choice point where you want to go be affectionate or be compassionate or express love in some way, but you're not allowed to do it because society says you're not supposed to, choose deliberately. Choose love deliberately. Really, I don't care what it is. And it's not even about the thing that you're putting the love on. It's about making yourself into a better human, is really what it is. Make sure that you're not prioritizing fear, or deferring is the word. Deferring to fear or deferring to something stupid. So here's an example. I had a friend who, am I going to say this right? Hang on. I guess I will. I had, well, it was okay, I'll use this example. In the Joan of Arc lifetime, I'll just use that because it's, yeah. Yolanda of Aragon was a key figure, very powerful queen at the time. And she was a very good mother. She had her own army. She was a very good mother. And she was the mother-in-law to the Dauphin, the king that I put on the throne. His wife, yeah, his mother-in-law was Yolanda of Aragon. It was practice in those times. There were all sorts of politically arranged marriages, and what you would do is if you had an arranged marriage with the child, that child would be sent to the kingdom where they would be someday married, and they would be raised there. So Yolanda of Aragon took in and helped raise King Charles VII, the king that I put on the throne when I was Joan of Arc. And there were many other children there too, a number of other children, because it was a hotbed of political activity and exchanges of arranged marriages. So she had like 6 kids. And she was a very good mother and would raise them from the time they were little. But then sometimes the political alliance would change, and all of a sudden, this kid who had been raised by a really good, loving mother, loved this person like a mother, would occasionally be simply sent away, cut and dry. You're going to marry somebody else now. And a lot of children were simply sent away. There was a karmic consequence to that in this lifetime for my friend Zoya, because Zoya was Yolanda of Aragon. You can hear the commonalities, and a lot of things carry through. And one of the things that carried through is she had karma with me, which is one of the reasons she's always, since I met her in college, every time there's a Joan of Arc related issue, karmic issue, she's always helping me with that. She's got karma and when I was Joan of Arc, she was supposed to help me and she didn't. However, but that's neither here nor there, I'm not blaming her, because we all have shit. It was a horrible lifetime for all of us. But like, we're all back and we all know each other again too. At any rate, in this lifetime, there was basically something that happened in her own childhood, where she was shuttled around and like started to be raised by people, and then her mother died, and then she was abruptly rerouted, and it was really, really difficult. She had a very difficult childhood. But one of the things that happened is that one of her foster parents, the man she thought of as her father, said that he couldn't see her anymore, and it was basically because his new wife thought that it was inappropriate, even though she had been basically his daughter. Things like that 100% need to go. If you prioritize social protocol, I should have used a different example. I'm going to go with a different example. No, I won't. I'll just, whatever. If you have a choice between a genuine expression of love, loving anybody, no matter what the fuck the reason is, it's not as important as love. Love is the highest. Love is at the top. If you want to ascend, follow the love, and that's all you need to do. There should be no rationale. Money's not more important. What people will say is not important. Any kind of, conditioned response, you're not supposed to talk to this person, it's not as important. The purity is going to come when you simply make love the most important thing. All around. Doesn't mean, doesn't mean you can't have boundaries, etc. But if you're, just examine it, is my point. Anytime you're tempted to be loving or compassionate and you don't for some reason, examine the reason. Also flip this. I would recommend flipping the script. This is one thing I was going to say. I saw a post on Facebook not too long ago, and it was something about it was a post from a high school. Something like these art students, these high school art students are knitting together plastic bags to make sleeping mats for the homeless. And honestly, I'm sure they're doing it for I'm sure they have good intentions. As someone who has been homeless and I actually really don't like that. I wish I could write to them and say, please do something different. Because if you're going to take that much time, at least give them something good. Or before you give somebody a sleeping mat made out of plastic garbage bags, you go and spend a night on pavement on a sleeping mat full of plastic garbage bags and tell me if you think it's oh so cushy. It doesn't feel like love. It feels like, well, we'll see if we can, what we do, but beggars can't be choosers, and we're going to give this thing to the garbage people because they're destitute and, you're welcome, here you go. It's just not that nice. I still think it's garbage. If you're going to take the time to knit, it's just not that cushy. I would say go spend a night on one of those sleeping mats and then see. I have an idea that anybody who did that might feel differently about giving them. Maybe if you care about the homeless, get them an actual mattress. And if it was you, what would you want in that circumstance? Actually, being homeless, you learn a lot. I learned a lot. There are a lot of things that they need more love. They need more love and actual care. Anyway, I'm sure they mean well. I just don't think it's not that cushy, and nobody really wants to sleep on garbage bags. Let's see. What else did I have? Yeah. All right. I've talked too much. She said. Gretel! Hi! All right. I was just about to leave. Oh, dear. I really do need to get more organized. Oh my God. And I feel like I started to talk about spirit communication and then I didn't finish. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to talk about protein. Okay, whatever. Maybe not right now. Okay, I love you. If you would like to make a donation, I'm going to put a thing on this at the top of the live stream. And if you'd like to book a session, please do, because I would love to have a session with you. I do really like my sessions. Okay. I love you. Am I done? I think so. Swear to God I was going to talk about something else. I forgot. Okay.